Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer joins me today to unpack the latest in the mining industry. Hi Martin.
Hi Chanel.
Royal Bafokeng Platinum is studying the feasibility of generating its own electricity. What can you tell us about this proposed project?
Well, the first thing I'd like to tell you about it is that it's solar. So the attempt is to go green. And this is what we need to see with all mining groups. And Royal Bafokeng Platinum, they listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange 10 years ago. And wow, as they hit this 10th anniversary, their celebration is huge with fantastic results, fantastic free cash flow, fantastic earnings. So they're in a very good space at the moment. And one of the other things that they are looking at is not only generating like 30 megawatts of solar power, but also using the excess there to produce hydrogen. Because at Staldrift, it's a mechanized mine, and there are a lot of diesel activity fleets under there. And if they could convert that diesel to green hydrogen, it would be major stimulus for the world using platinum group metals to actually make the planet a better place. But another thing that really impressed me is that during this 10 years you look at what a company's done, and among the things that they've done are really build fantastic houses. And when you see the way their workers are treated with near mine housing, dignified housing, ownership of the housing, and you see this whole family life developing, you realize that the mines make an incredible contribution. Not only are the mines doing very well now, so they're paying high taxes, but you can see they're going green, they look after their workers. So there's so many social commitments as well. So I think that the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance is really being exercised by our mines. And you can see it coming through with Royal Bafokeng Platinum.
Meanwhile, China has become the largest importer of South African coal.
Now this is quite unexpected because India, for many years now, has been the biggest importer of South African coal. So our exports, the biggest market has been into India. But because of the tic-tac between China and Australia, China is now looking for coal elsewhere. It doesn't want to buy coal from Australia any longer. And so that thermal coal opportunity has fallen partly to South Africa. Also Indonesia supplying very close to China, supplying this coal, Russia. But we see now for the month of February that the biggest single export went to China, even though that distance is greater. And you can see that the prices of coal are firming. And I think that you can see China prepared to pay that higher price. So it's benefiting South Africa. We see that Richards Bay Coal Terminal is regarded as a world-class terminal. So, the actual shipping from there is fine, even though the distance is greater. We see the Richards Bay Coal Terminal really trying to increase their efficiency. We know they've set up new stackers and reclaimers. They spent a lot of equipment. Those have all been commissioned now. And they're even going for to beat all the bottlenecks, setting in conveyor systems. And one of the conveyor systems they call over the top, which sounds pretty efficient to me, to get the coal, from their stockpiles into these ships very efficiently, stop all the ships queuing up and get the things moving. But it's very interesting to see this move with China, and the fact that South African coal is being used is also interesting because China never really imported substantial quantities of coal since 2014, and there were all sorts of impediments that prevented them from doing it, but it's being overlooked now. Out our coal is going, and presumably some of the Australian coal is going to India. But I haven't got the figures on that, but sometimes it's a changing of the deck chairs. But meantime, it's great to have a firm demand from a country like China for our coal.
Lastly, mines globally have the opportunity to go green and decarbonise.
Yes, there is wind and there's sun, and it's ubiquitous, and the word ubiquitous means everywhere. And so mines anywhere and mines everywhere should not be hesitating to actually go green. And this was made very clearly by hydrogen optimizers in a webinar that was hosted by Fasken. So these are a lot of Canadian voices coming through. But the voice that really impressed me was that of Andrew Stewart. Now, if you look at that hydrogen, that company, Hydrogen Optimizers, and you start going down the history, you see that unbelievably, this company has direct links to Sir William Grove, you know, who was the inventor of the fuel cell. Now, it's great that Andrew Stewart, who's sort of the voice now today of the fuel cell and use of hydrogen, has such a link, because it gives it such a lot of credibility to think that they're saying to you, produce this green hydrogen, you know, use the fuel cells. And the company has a sort of a 100-year association with the inventor of this fuel cell. And I'm sure Sir William Grove must be very happy, and Michael Faraday was also linked to that, to see that at last, you know, the world is starting to recognize some of these developments they had, particularly the fuel cell, which maybe it'll also be ubiquitous one day. He's using that word everywhere. But he's saying that you can also have microgrids. You know, you don't have to rely on the big national grid anymore. You can get your sun energy, wind energy, or a combination of the two. Your excess of that, you can create green hydrogen. That green hydrogen becomes your fuel through the fuel cell to turn back into electricity and drive all your fleet around. And you're doing your job for the planet. And at the same time, I think those people who are producing platinum group metals in South Africa should start looking more closely at where they need to be an example to the world to also go green. I must say, every single one of them is talking about going green, but a tremendous example can be made from the mines themselves. But also, it was interesting to see, you know, Royal Bafokeng Platinum, Steve Phiri, saying, hey, South Africa, what about you? You know, you should also be modeling along this route. You know, what about all your municipal buses, for instance? The route is clear. So you could easily generate hydrogen, green hydrogen, at the points where those buses can fuel up. And you know their route, so it's not going to be difficult. And trucks, you know, truckers often have got a set route. Those who do have can start moving around to fuel cell driven vehicles. And then South Africa will be indirectly and directly pushing platinum group metals, which we host in such vast quantities, more than anyone else on the planet, these magic metals that can catalyze and turn that hydrogen into electricity when the world is really going for electricity. South Africa should also be trying to do this. When we see countries like Switzerland doing it, we see Germany going full tilt, you know, the hydrogen economy, see Korea going full tilt, we see California, and now China, you know, going into this quite strongly. And once China does it, normally you get the volume, and then you get the price coming down. And this is what people are looking at. That was the big thing, the point made by Andrew Stewart in this Fasken Canadian-orientated webinar, was that the price of solar power and the price of wind power has come screaming down. And this is making the fuel cell now come into its own. So a lot of things are falling into place because of volume and scale. And if we could even add to that, I think South Africa would be credible. No, we needn't be hypocritical. So we're cleaning the air of all the big cities around the world, but we don't worry about our own air. I think that's a bit hypocritical when you're selling a product. And pressure is building for South Africa to do something. I hope that the people who take the decisions actually take heed of this so we can start moving into a better era.
Thanks for chatting to us, Barton.
It's a great pleasure, Chanel.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the local and global mining industries. Don't forget to listen to the audio version of our Mining Weekly daily email newsletter.